We are studying a very, very beautiful story of a man that loved God, but he was a human being. The Word of God is true in every aspect. I want to start off in the New Testament today. And then we'll go back to 2 Samuel. Do not be deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever man sows, that same thing shall he also reap. For the one who sows to his own flesh shall from the flesh reap corruption, but the one who sows to the Spirit shall from the Spirit reap eternal life. Let us not lose heart in doing good, for in due time we shall reap, if we do not grow weary. So then, while we have opportunity, let us do good to all men, and especially to those who are the household of the faith. This is true in the Old Testament and the New. David was very blessed by God. God took him out from, he was the youngest son, and God took him out from shepherding sheep until shepherding his whole nation. David's great blunder in life, was killing his bodyguard, Uriah's, having him killed, and other people lost their lives. When he ordered that Joab would go out there and put Uriah out in the front of the very bravest of the brave. Now, Uriah was one of the great warriors of David, and he was a Hittite, but he had converted to Jehovah as his God, and he was a great valiant warrior. He had a beautiful wife, and David took her, got her pregnant, and then tried to send him home to her so he would think that was his child. And he didn't go home. He was a valiant man, but he was full of sacrifice. He would not go home to his beautiful wife. He laid there at David's door with David's servants and wouldn't go home. So David, in desperation to cover his sin, sent him out in battle to have him killed. And then God, to Nathan his prophet, told David that the sword should not depart from his house. But all the way through the Bible, you don't hear any other thing about David's sin. God forgave him of his sin. And God left him on the throne. But that even from his own house, that there would be rebellion and bloodshed. And that's what we're going to begin here. Now we're going to see how Joab was very faithful to David. Joab was faithful. Joab was a great counselor and a great general. He was very murderous in that he killed people that he didn't have to kill. Now, Joab is fighting against Rabbah, the sons of Ammon, and he captured the royal city, but he doesn't want to take credit for it in this war. He wants David to come and take credit for it. So that's where we're starting out right now. Now Joab sent messengers to David and said, I have fought against Rabbah, and I've even captured the city of waters. Now therefore gather the rest of the people together and camp against the city and capture it, lest I capture this city myself and it be named after me.
Where are we?
We're in 2 Samuel 12 and verse 26 is where we started.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And you can't see the blackboard. So David gathered all the people and went to Rabbah to fight against it and to capture it. And he took the crown of the king from his head, and its weight was a talent of gold. And it was precious in stones, and it was placed upon David's head, and he brought out the spoil of the city in great amounts. And he brought out the people who were in it, and set them under sharp iron instruments, iron axes, and made them pass through a brick kiln. He burned them alive. And this he did to all the cities of the sons of Ammon. And then David and all his people returned to Jerusalem. This was a gruesome thing here. It's war. It's war. Why did he act so violent to these people? Why, after he had captured them, did he not say, hey, follow me? I believe he wanted to make an example so the people would be afraid to rebel. Because later on we're going to have all these people rebelling again and again and again, but not in David's lifetime. Now it was after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a beautiful sister whose name was Tamar. Tamar, you know, that means tall and statuesque like a palm tree. And Ammon, the son of David, loved her. Ammon, her brother. Now here's his half-sister. The curse begins now. The curse that God put upon David begins. It was already in the heart of Absalom. Absalom was a handsome man. He was just David's pride and joy. He loved him. And Ammon was so frustrated because of his sister Tamar, and he made himself ill, for she was a virgin. And it seemed hard to Ammon to do anything to her. But Ammon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shemiah, David's brother. And Jonadab was a very, what we might call deceitful man. Deceitful and shrewd. And he said to him, O son of the king, why are you so depressed morning after morning? Will you not tell me? And then Ammon said to him, I am in love with Tamar, the sister of my brother Absalom. Then Jonadab then said to him, lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. When your father comes to see you, say to him, this is David now, say to him, please let my sister Tamar come and give me some food. Now, he could have asked his father David, Father, I'm in love with my sister Tamar. Would you give her to me for my wife? She's my half-sister, but Abraham's half-sister was Sarah, etc., etc. He could say that I wanted this, I wanted my sister. I want this woman. I am in love with her. And David would probably have said, okay. But he took the advice of a fool instead. And he became a fool in doing so. Please let my sister Tamar come and give me some food to eat. And let her prepare the food in my sight, that I may see it and eat it from her hand. Now David probably should have known something about this. He should have maybe said, well, why is he picking on Tamar? Why is he asking my other daughter to come and wait on him? What's wrong? What's wrong, Ammon? What's going on here? But he didn't. David was very lenient to his children. That was one of his faults. So Ammon lay down and pretended to be ill, and when the king came to see him, Ammon said to the king, please let my sister Tamar come and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat it from her hand. David didn't say why. He didn't say why. Then David sent to the house of Tamar, saying, go now to your brother Ammon's house and prepare food for him. So Tamar went to her brother's house, her brother Ammon's house, and he was lying down, and she took dough and kneaded it and made cakes in his sight and baked the cakes. Now why did she make the cakes in his sight? Have you ever been in a restaurant and see other people eating, and you see food being prepared, and you get hungry and hungry and hungry and hungrier? Well, that's what the deal here was. He said, if I see them cooking the food, I will be hungry enough to eat it. And she took the pan and dished them out before him, but he refused to eat. And Ammon said, have everyone gone out from me. Have everyone leave. So everyone went out from him. Then Ammon said to Tamar, bring the food into my bedroom, into my reclining room, that I might eat from your hand. So Tamar took the cakes which she had made and brought them into the bedroom to her brother Ammon. And when she brought him in for him to eat, he took hold of her and said to her, come lie with me, my sister. Now he said, come and let's make love. Let's have sex. That's what he said to her. But she answered, no, my brother, do not violate me, for such a thing is not done in Israel. Do not do this disgraceful thing. As for me, where could I get rid of my disgraceful reproach? I will be disgraced. And as for you, you will be like one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore, please speak to the king, our father, for he will not withhold me from you. Did she say she would be willing? If he did this the right way, did she say she would be willing? Yes. Yeah, she was willing. However, he would not listen to her, and since he was stronger than she was, he violated her and lay with her. Now, after he violated her and laid with her, she was his, as far as she was concerned. She now had a husband. They had gone through the act of marriage. And now she was not going to complain anymore, because now she had been violated. She had given her virginity to him. But now something worse than this happens. Something worse than this. Then Ammon hated her. Wow. And then Ammon hated her. Why did he hate her? Then Ammon hated her with a very great hatred, for the hatred with which he hated her was greater than the love with which he loved her. And Ammon said to her, get up and get away. Get up and get out of here. And then she begins mourning. She has given herself to this man, unwillingly, but she did. And now he has become her husband, and now he's going to throw her away. But she said to him, no, but because this wrong is sending me away is greater than the other that you have done to me. It was wrong to send her away. She could never be a virgin for another man. And that was very important in this time and age in Israel. Extremely important. No, because the wrong in sending me away is greater than the other that you have done to me. Yet he would not listen to her. Then he called the young man who attended him and said, now throw this woman out of my presence, and lock the door behind her. I don't understand what happened here, but he just turned his love into hate. Now she had on a long sleeve garment, for in this matter the virgin daughters of the king dressed themselves in robes. Then his attendant took her out and locked the door behind her. And Tamar put ashes on her head. She tore her long sleeve garment which was on her. And she put her hand on her head and went away crying and weeping and mourning aloud as she went. She is broken-hearted. She has been destroyed. She can never offer what she had to another man. And when she finally gave in to her brother, she felt like she was sealed to him. But he absolutely disgusted her. He was disgusted with her. Then Absalom, her brother, said to her, has Ammon your brother been with you? Has your brother Ammon, did he rape you? Has he been in bed with you? Are you no longer a virgin? That's what he asked her. Now keep silent, my sister, he is your brother. Do not take this matter to heart. So Tamar remained and was desolate in her brother Absalom's house. She was desolate. She was brokenhearted. She was crushed. Now, when King David heard of these matters, he was very angry. He would have given her to him, but what made David so angry that he threw her out after he took her virginity? But Absalom did not speak to Ammon either good or bad, for Absalom hated Ammon because he had violated his sister Tamar. Now it came about after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal Hazor, which is near Ephraim, and Absalom invited all the king's sons. And Absalom came to the king and said, Behold, now your servant has sheep shearers. Please let the king and his servants go with your servant. But the king said to Absalom, No, my son, we should not all go, lest it be burdensome to you. Although he kept on urging him, and he would not go, but blessed him. Then Absalom said, If not, please let my brother Ammon go with us. Do you see a setup here? And the king said to him, Why should he go with you? But when Absalom urged him, he let Ammon and all the king's sons go with him. And Absalom commanded his servant, saying, See now, when Ammon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say, Now, when Ammon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say to you, Strike Ammon, then put him to death. Do not fear, have I not myself commanded you? Be courageous, and be valiant. And the servants of Absalom did to Ammon just as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and each mounted his mule and fled. By the way, mules don't go into war. Mules are an animal of peace, and they rode their mules. They didn't ride their chargers here. They rode their mules. Now it was while they were on the way that a report came to David saying, Absalom has struck down all the king's sons, and not one of them is left. Then the king arose, he tore his clothes and lay on the ground. And all his servants were standing by with the clothes that were torn also. They tore their clothes also. And Jonadab, the son of Shemiah, David's brother, responded, Do not let my lord suppose that they have put to death all the young men, the king's sons, for Ammon alone is dead. Because by the intent of Absalom, this has been determined since the day that he violated his sister Tamar. Now everybody knew about this story. Everybody knew about the story of Tamar and Ammon. And David should have stepped in before this. He should have stepped in and told Ammon, Ammon, you have a wife. Don't you violate my daughter and then throw her away. And if that would have been done, then we wouldn't have had this problem, wouldn't it? He was too lenient on his children. He was too lenient on Absalom. Now therefore do not let the Lord my king take the report to heart, namely that all the king's sons are dead, for only Ammon is dead. Now Absalom had fled. And the young man who was the watchman raised his eyes and looked, and behold, many people were coming from the road behind him by the side of the mountain. And Jonadab said to the king, Behold, the king's sons have come, according to your servant's word, so it happened. This is a sad story, isn't it? Be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. David reaped it. David, every time that a king did what was right in his eyes, he said they did like their father David did. He forgave David for this, but David, what he sowed, now he was going to reap. Now it came about as soon as he had finished speaking, that behold, the king's sons came and lifted up their voices and wept. And also the king and all his servants wept very bitterly. We're going to find out something about Absalom. Even though David loved Absalom with all his heart, and he would forgive. David was a man of forgiveness because God forgave him. And he forgave Absalom. Later on we find out that he forgave him. But Absalom was a thorn in his flesh, and Absalom had to die. Later, Absalom would have to die. And the king and all of his servants wept very bitterly. Now Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, the king of Geshur. And David mourned for his son every day. David mourned for his son Ammon, and he mourned for his son Absalom. He loved him. So Absalom had fled and gone to Geshur. And he was there for 3 whole years. 3 years. And the heart of King David longed to go out to Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Ammon since he was dead. Absalom he loved because he was still alive. His son Ammon was gone. He couldn't bring him back. Just like the child that died, he could not bring him back. And now David looks forward, and he mourns for his son Absalom because he loves Absalom. Now Joab is quite a guy in the Bible. Joab is David's best confidant, and he's a great warrior. Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, perceived that king's heart was inclined toward Absalom. So Joab sent to Tekoa, and he brought a wise woman from there and said to her, "Please pretend to be a mourner, and put on mourning garments now, and do not anoint yourself with oil, but like a woman who has been mourning for the dead for many days. Then you go to the king and speak to him in this manner." So Joab put the words in her mouth. Now when the woman of Tekoa spoke to the king, she fell on her face to the ground and prostrated herself and said, "Help, O king, help, help, help." She kept saying, "Help, help, help." And the king said to her, "What is your trouble?" Joab is a great friend to David. He corrects David when David is wrong. A good friend will correct you sometimes when you're wrong. And the king said to her, "What is your trouble?" And she answered, "Truly I am a widow, for my husband is dead. And your maidservant had 2 sons, but the 2 of them struggled together in the field, and there was no one to separate them. And one struck the other and killed him. Now behold, the whole family was risen against your maidservant, and they said, Hand over the one who struck his brother, so that we may put him to death for the life of his brother, whom he killed, and destroy the heir also. I have 1 son left, my heir, 1 son left. If they kill him, they will destroy the heir also." And not only is this heir, this is her Social Security check. Except it is a made-up story. It's not true. "Thus will extinguish my coal, which is left, so as to leave my husband neither name nor remnant on the face of the earth." Then the king said to the woman, "Go to your house, and I will give orders concerning you." And the woman of Tekoa said to the king, O my lord, the king, the iniquity is on me and my father's house, but the king and his throne are guiltless. So the king said, whosoever speaks to you, bring him to me, and he will not touch you or any more. Then she said, please let the king remember the Lord, your God, so that the avenger of blood may not continue to destroy, lest they destroy my son. And he said, as the Lord lives, not one hair of your son shall fall to the ground. Then the woman said, please let your maidservant speak a word to my lord the king. And he said, speak. And the woman said, why then have you planned such an evil thing against the people of God? For in speaking this word, the king is as one who is guilty, and that the king does not bring back his banished one. For he shall surely die, and are like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. Yet God does not take away life, but plans ways that the banished one may not be cast out from him. Now the reason that I've come to speak this word to my lord the king is because the people have made me afraid. So your maidservant says, let me now speak to the king. Perhaps the king will perform the request of his maidservant. For the king will hear and deliver his maidservant from the hand of the man who would destroy both me and my son. If they destroyed her son, she would have been destroyed also. She would have starved to death from the inheritance of God. Then the maidservant said, please let the word of the Lord king be comforting, for as an angel of God, so as my lord the king is to discern good and evil. And may the Lord your God be with you. And the king answered and said to the woman, please not hide anything from me that I am about to ask you. And the woman said, let my lord the king please speak. So the king said, is the hand of Joab with you in all of this? Sounded just like Joab. Remember when he was mourning before? Joab came to him and said, quit mourning. And now Joab is there to build up David. Joab was going to go capture a city, and he didn't want the city to be named as if he captured it, but David captured it. Joab's loyalty to David is supreme. And the woman said, so as your soul lives, my lord the king, no one turn to the right or to the left from anything that my lord the king has spoken. Indeed, it was your servant Joab who commanded me, and it was he who put all these words in my mouth of your maidservant. In order to change the appearance of things, that your servant Joab has done this thing. But my Lord is wise, like the wisdom of an angel of God, to know all that is on the earth. Then the king said to Joab, he goes and brings Joab in, his friend, his bosom friend, his confidant. Behold, now I surely will do this thing, for therefore bring back the young man Absalom. So Joab fell on his face to the ground and prostrated himself and blessed the king. Then Joab said, today your servant knows that I have found favor in your sight, O my lord the king, and that the king has performed the request of his servant. So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. How the king said, let him turn to his own house, and let not him see my face. So Absalom turned to his own house and did not see the king's face. A sad story so far, isn't it? A sad story. A sad story about a sad state of affairs that took place that David didn't take care of to begin with. Ammon would not have been killed if David would have made Ammon do what he was supposed to do and marry his sister Tamar. Absalom would have had no reason to avenge the disgrace of his sister if David had made Ammon marry her. He was already married to her, but he threw her away. It's always best if you make your children do the right thing, isn't it? It's always best if you can. I mean, children have their own mind, but you should guide. And when Ammon raped his sister Tamar, David said, "She is your wife." He should have said that. Now you take care of her from now on, and you honor her. But he didn't do it. And then, because he didn't do that, then this all happens. What a sad state of affairs. Sowing and reaping, sowing and reaping, sowing and reaping. That's the eternal law of God. All the way from the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve sowed to the flesh, and they reaped death. Cain sowed to the flesh, made his own religion, and reaped banishment. David sowed to the flesh when he took Bathsheba as his wife and killed her husband. Like I said before, if David had have asked Uriah for her hand, he would have given to her. He loved David. He was his bodyguard. He was his personal guard when he was in battle. But he didn't do the right thing. He didn't do the right thing. So here we have sowing and reaping, sowing and reaping, sowing and reaping. Our Father, we send this message out to honor and glorify you and your word. Your word is so true, so beautiful. And yet there are hard things in there. There's death and violence and bloodshed, rape and pillage, murder. And even a man like David that made mistakes in his life. You tell the whole story. You don't hide it from us. Abraham made mistakes. You told the whole story. If anybody else would have been writing the book, they would have left out the disgraceful things and only put the good. Like obituaries. You don't hear about how bad the woman was or how bad the man was at the obituary. Father, when you write your book, you wrote it in truth. Father, I send this message out to honor and glorify you. Touch the hearts of your students all over this world, those that you've given me to care for and watch over. Please forgive me where I fail you. In Jesus' name I